the 8 a.m. podcast, presented by Train the Teacher.
Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's get straight into something really practical today. How to seriously level up your English speaking skills, even if, you don't have a practice partner handy right now.
Yeah, that challenge, practicing speaking when you're, on your own, that's exactly what our sources for this deep dive to get into. We've pulled insights from like a whole stack of articles, research notes, all focusing on effective solo English speaking practice.
And the core idea, the really powerful kind of simple principle that just keeps coming up everywhere. It's summed up so well by one expert who basically says the best way to learn to speak English is, well, to speak it.
Exactly. Spot on. And the absolute key thing, I think, from digging into these sources is you don't actually need another person there to do that effectively.
Yeah.
You really can build fluency, build confidence, just speaking completely on your own.
Which is huge. I mean, think about it. Suddenly practice isn't tied to someone else's schedule, right? It's convenient, it's flexible, and a lot of the time, totally free. So our mission today is really to unpack the best techniques the sources highlight. We're talking things like self-talk, shadowing native speakers.
Recording your voice, using all the cool apps and AI tools out there now.
Right, and actively imitating English media.
And these aren't just, random tips thrown together. They're strategies that work, and they're adaptable. So whether you're a beginner just finding your feet, or maybe intermediate, or even advanced looking to really polish things, there's something here. We're going to walk you through the how-tos, give you those level-specific tips straight from the material, and just show how powerful this solo stuff can be.
Okay, sounds great. Let's unpack that first technique the sources really focus on. And honestly, it sounds a little weird at first, the self-talk, just talking out loud to yourself.
In English.
It just sound a bit odd, yeah. But the sources, they're really clear about how powerful it is. Why? Well, because it's the most accessible, like zero barrier way to just start speaking. You pick the topic, do it anywhere, shower, walking, cooking.
Right. It's free, it's flexible, and it immediately starts building that crucial habit, forming English sentences when there's a bit of pressure, even if it's just you listening.
So it's not just random words floating around. The sources give actual examples, like narrating your morning routine. Today, I'm going to take a shower, that kind of thing. Or recapping the day later on. Today was good, I read.
Right, exactly. And for beginners, the sources say keep it super simple. Focus on the sounds, basic sentences, just naming objects you see. I see a chair, that is a table. Simple stuff. Or maybe repeating short phrases you've heard. And they mentioned using a mirror or even your phone camera can help you see your mouth shape, check pronunciation a bit. It's really about making that first connection, thought to spoken English word.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense for starting out. How does it level up for someone who's more intermediate?
Good question. At the intermediate level, the sources suggest adding more detail. Describe your day, your surroundings, but using more complex sentences. And this is where imaginary dialogues get really useful, like pretend you're ordering food.
Ah, like rehearsing.
Exactly. Or asking for directions, maybe even practicing for a job interview in your head, but out loud.
So you're kind of anticipating real situations, asking yourself questions you might actually face.
Precisely. You pose questions to yourself in English like, okay, how would I book a hotel room? And then you talk through the steps out loud. The sources call this contextual self-talk, and it's fantastic for building confidence and fluency for specific real-life moments before they happen.
Okay, I see. And what about advanced learners? How do you push self-talk even further then?
For advanced folks, it's really about mimicking the complexity of real conversation, real thought processes. So narrating stories, giving detailed opinions on things, talking about achievements. One of my biggest achievements is, or future plans. Hypothetical situations too, like if I had a free year, you can even debate issues with yourself, explore different sides of an argument out loud.
Wow, okay, that really takes it up a notch. It sounds like it builds not just fluency, but your ability to actually structure complex thoughts in English.
Absolutely. You're basically turning your internal monologue, the voice in your head, into external English practice. And the sources stress consistency here. Aim for just a few minutes of this self-talk daily, even 5-10 minutes, maybe planning in the morning, summarizing in the evening. Over time, that really sharpens your ability to think and speak on the fly.
Okay, so talking to yourself builds that fundamental muscle, but how do you make sure you're sounding, natural, not just fluent in your own potential mistakes?
Perfect transition. That leads right into the next technique, which is all about sound and rhythm, shadowing. This is where you listen to a native speaker and you repeat what they say immediately, almost like a super fast echo. Some sources call it being a parrot.
Wait, you mean speaking at the exact same time as them? That sounds incredibly hard.
It is. It really is tricky at first. But that's kind of why it works so well. You play some English audio, could be a podcast clip, news, dialogue, and you speak along in real time. Try to match their speed, their rhythm, their intonation. The power here, the sources explain, is it forces you to focus intensely on the music of English. The sounds, how words link together, the stress patterns.
And not just the words, but the melody, huh?
Precisely. It trains your ear and your mouth together simultaneously. Like one source puts it, this helps you sound much more natural. Instead of like you're reading from a textbook, you're internalizing that natural flow.
Okay, I get the why, but how does a beginner even start with something that sounds so challenging?
Yeah, good point. The sources say start small, start slow. Short audio clips, maybe just 20 or 30 seconds. Resources like VOA Learning English are often mentioned because they speak slower news, which is great for this. You listen once just to get the gist, then play it again and try to mimic every word as they say it. Don't stress about understanding it all initially, just focus on making the sounds. Using transcripts can help too at first. Read along silently, then try shadowing with the text there.
And for intermediate learners, just speed it up.
Yeah, basically. Move to longer clips, normal speed audio like news reports, interviews. The challenge then becomes keeping pace without stopping or pausing too much. Really pay attention to sentence stress, how native speakers smush words together, that linking. Shadowing with subtitles or a script on a second listen can still be really helpful to kind of check yourself and refine things.
What about advanced learners trying to tackle something really fast, like a TED Talk or a movie scene?
For advanced learners, yeah, dive into that authentic, fast stuff. TED Talks, shows, speeches. Now, you're not just mimicking speed and intonation, but you're listening for nuance, for emotion, for the pacing. It's much more subtle. The sources mentioned something called chorusing here, which is basically high-level shadowing, speaking along at normal speed, really aiming to hone a natural accent and delivery. There's a quote about this saying shadowing helps develop your target language intonation, the natural melody of your speech.
The natural melody, I like that. It's a good way to think about it. So how much shadowing should someone actually aim for daily?
The suggestion seems to be around 10 to 15 minutes a day. Even just doing one short news segment, or maybe a verse from a song you like, doing that consistently makes a noticeable difference in your intonation and rhythm over time. And yeah, you gradually pick harder audio as you get better.
Okay, so we've got self-talk for general fluency, shadowing for the sound and rhythm, but how do you actually know if you're improving? Or if you're making mistakes you just can't hear yourself making?
Right, that's the critical question. And that's where the third technique becomes really essential. Recording and reviewing yourself, it might feel, a bit awkward at first.
Understatement. I can imagine the cringe.
Yeah, definitely. But the sources explain it's one of the most objective ways to get feedback when you're practicing solo. You just use your phone, your computer, whatever, record short bits of yourself speaking. Then, and this is key, you listen back critically.
Why is that uncomfortable step so important? What does it actually achieve?
Well, because you catch errors you completely miss in the moment. When you're speaking, your brain kind of smooths things over, fills in gaps. Listening to a recording, that forces you to hear what you actually sound like. It gives you feedback that, well, silent practice or even just self-talk can't provide. Plus, it creates a real record. You can track your progress over time.
Okay, so how should a beginner tackle this? Keep it simple again, I guess.
Absolutely. Start super simple. Record yourself answering basic questions like, what's your name? Or maybe a quick 1-minute self-intro, then play it back. Yeah, it might sound rough, but just hearing yourself is the first hurdle. Listen for really obvious mispronunciations or maybe long, awkward pauses. And the sources definitely recommend saving these early recordings.
So you can laugh at them later.
More like celebrate later, because when you listen back maybe weeks or months later, you'll clearly see how far you've come, as one guide puts it. It's motivating. For intermediate learners, maybe try recording a 2-3-minute summary of your day or talk about a hobby you have. A good tip here is to compare your recording to a native speaker model. Maybe a short clip from a podcast on a similar topic. Listen for things like filler words, or if you sound choppy, or maybe grammatical mistakes you didn't realize you were making. Then try re-recording it, focusing on fixing just those things. Doing this maybe once a week can show real steady progress.
That comparison idea sounds really powerful. And for advanced speakers, what are they listening for?
Advanced learners can record maybe a short presentation or even try debating a topic with themselves, recording it. When reviewing, they're listening for more subtle stuff. How does the intonation flow over longer sentences? Are they using idiomatic phrases naturally? How's the overall fluency and pacing?
And how often should people be doing this? Is it a daily thing too?
The sources seem to suggest recording yourself regularly, but maybe not daily, like self-talk or shadowing. Perhaps weekly or even just monthly is effective. Even just 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 2-3 times a week, helps build that crucial feedback loop habit. The key advice, though, is when you review. Be honest, but also be kind to yourself. Note those persistent mistakes, grammar, pronunciation, speed, so you know exactly what to work on next time.
Okay, right. Self-talk, shadowing, recording, these are powerful, sure, but they're still essentially just you doing stuff alone.
What about bringing in technology? The sources mention apps and AI tools. How do they fit into this solo practice picture? Yeah, this is where solo practice gets a really cool modern boost. Technology can basically simulate conversation and give you real-time feedback in ways that just weren't possible before. It's almost like having a practice partner who's, always available and never gets tired or bored.
Okay, so what kind of tools are we talking about here?
The sources mention quite a few types. Pronunciation apps, for example, like ELSA Speak. These are fantastic. They use speech recognition to listen to you, and then they give really detailed feedback on specific sounds you might be struggling with. Great for beginners or intermediates needing that targeted drill practice.
And the AI chatbots, I keep hearing they're getting incredibly good, almost human-like.
They really are. Tools like ChatGPT Voice or Speak by OpenAI offer really quite human-like voice interaction now. You can have actual back-and-forth conversations, practice role-playing, ordering coffee, doing an interview, and get that low-stakes speaking time. The AI doesn't judge. You can restart, ask for corrections. It's very flexible.
Can you just use the tools most people already have, like on their phones?
Absolutely. Your regular voice assistant, Google Assistant, Siri, they're always available, right? You can practice simple, daily things like, "Hey Google, what's the weather like today?" Or ask basic questions out loud. It's a simple way to just get more speaking practice woven into your day.
What about the classic language learning apps? Do they help with speaking?
Yeah, many of the big ones, Mondly, Babbel, Duolingo, they now include voice features, often chatbots that simulate basic dialogues. Things like making plans, asking for directions. They offer quite structured practice, which can be really good for beginners, building that initial conversational confidence.
Are there tools that maybe combine AI with other concepts, like language exchange?
Yes, some apps are doing that. Like HelloTalk, which is known for connecting you with native speakers, is also integrating AI chatbots. So while you can talk to real people, their AI can also simulate conversations and even offer corrections on voice messages you practiced recording.
And leveraging video, how does that work with tech for speaking practice?
Video-based tools are huge for this. Flow@You is one example. It uses real-world videos, like news clips, interviews, vlogs. It has interactive subtitles and speaking quizzes built in. Really good for intermediate to advanced folks wanting to imitate authentic speech in context. And then there's Youglish. This tool is amazing for pronunciation. You type in any word or phrase,
yeah.
and it searches YouTube and finds hundreds of real video clips where native speakers say that exact word or phrase. As one source said, you can literally listen to a native say a word 100 times to really nail the pronunciation in different contexts.
Wow, that Youglish one sounds incredibly useful for those tricky words you just can't seem to get right.
It really is powerful.
Yeah.
And there are even gamified apps popping up like SpeakPal AI that give you daily challenges and rewards to keep you motivated. The key thing with all these tools, really, is finding ones that match your level and your goals, and then using them consistently as part of your routine, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes a day. They offer so much varied interactive practice when a human partner just isn't around.
Okay, got it. So we've covered talking to yourself, mimicking sound with shadowing, getting feedback via recording, and using tech tools. The last big technique mentioned is watching and actively imitating native speakers through media. How is this different from shadowing again?
That's a good clarification. Shadowing is very focused primarily on the sound, the rhythm, often repeating almost simultaneously. Imitation is a bit broader. It's about immersing yourself in authentic English media, videos, shows, whatever, with the specific goal of actively mimicking, not just the sounds, but also the vocabulary they use, the phrasing, the overall speaking style.
So it's kind of a more holistic approach using media content.
Exactly. It helps your listening comprehension and vocab expands, but at the same time, you're directly working on your speaking style. The sources suggest all sorts of content. YouTube channels are just gold mines for this. For accent work, specifically, channels like Rachel's English for American pronunciation. She even shows mouth positions. Or English with Lucy for British English phrases. Speak English with Vanessa focuses on everyday conversational stuff. And for beginners, you've got VOA Learning English with its slower news, or even kids' channels for simple language and lots of repetition.
And the actual method, is it mainly like pause the video and repeat the line?
Yeah, that's a core technique. Watch a short segment, hit pause, repeat what was just said. Try hard to match the tone, the speed, the phrasing. The sources often recommend trying not to rely on subtitles if you can manage, to really train your ear. TV shows and movies work great too. Pick a short scene, listen to one line, repeat it exactly. Try to capture the actor's emotion, their pacing. Just replaying those little bits out loud really helps internalize how natural conversation flows.
What about audio-only sources, like podcasts or audiobooks? How do you imitate those?
For audio, a good approach is listen and summarize. Listen to a chunk, pause it, and then try to summarize what you just heard out loud in your own words. Or you can use the simpler listen and repeat technique. Play one sentence, pause, say it yourself.
And I bet Youglish comes up again here, too, if you hear a phrase you like.
Absolutely. Hear a cool phrase or a tricky one in a show or podcast. Pop it into Youglish, hear it used in loads of other real contexts, and practice saying it yourself. Oh, and don't forget singing. Learning lyrics and singing along to English songs is actually a really fun variation of shadowing. It helps massively with intonation and rhythm in a very natural, enjoyable way.
So the idea is to weave this imitation into your regular routine somehow.
Yes, exactly. Even just watching a short news clip or maybe an English vlog each day and consciously picking out a few key sentences or phrases to repeat and mimic, that makes a difference. Like Fluency points out, learning from real-world videos, interviews, vlogs, ads, really anchors the language in context. You pick up natural expressions, and it builds confidence in your pronunciation.
Okay, wow. That's a really fantastic toolkit of techniques. We've got self-talk, shadowing, recording, tech tools, imitating media. How do you actually put these together, like into a realistic solo practice routine that someone could actually stick to?
Yeah, that's the final crucial piece the sources address, building that sustainable habit. They really emphasize aiming for mini sessions scattered throughout the day, rather than trying to find one huge block of time, which can be tough. Consistency is just the absolute key.
Okay, so give us an example. What might a day look like with these mini sessions?
Well, you could maybe start your morning with just 5 or 10 minutes of self-talk. While you're getting ready, making coffee, just narrate your plans for the day out loud in English. Maybe once in a while. Record a minute of it to check later.
Okay, morning self-talk. Got it. Then maybe later in the day.
Midday, maybe during a break, you could fit in a 10-15-minute shadowing session. Find a short news clip, a podcast segment, and just shadow along with it.
And the evening, wind down with some imitation.
Exactly. Maybe in the evening, dedicate 10 or 15 minutes to media imitation. Watch a short English vlog, a scene from a show you like. Pause it. Repeat some key lines. Maybe even challenge yourself to shadow a few lines without looking at subtitles.
And the recording part, that felt more like a weekly or a couple times a week thing?
Yeah, that's right. The sources suggest making recording a regular habit, but maybe not daily. Say 2 or 3 times a week for 5-10 minutes. Use that time to maybe summarize your week, talk about a topic you're interested in, practice a mini speech, and crucially, listen back. And periodically, compare those recordings to older ones to see the progress.
How do the tech tools fit into that daily picture?
Those are perfect for the super short bursts, like a daily mini practice boost. Just 5 minutes chatting with an AI tool like ChatGPT Voice, or doing one quick pronunciation drill on an app like ELSA Speak. You can fit that in almost any time you have a short gap.
And then just kind of weaving English into the background throughout the day.
Exactly. Using those little idle moments when you're in the shower, commuting, doing chores. You could do silent thinking in English, or maybe soft speaking, just naming objects around you quietly, or have mental dialogues. Practice tongue twisters under your breath. It's about making English an active part of your sort of internal landscape all day long.
So it's really about creating these small, manageable habits using a mix of different techniques, not just relying on one.
That really seems to be the core insight, yeah. The sources really stress that even these short daily bursts add up significantly over time. And mixing and matching the methods keeps it interesting, keeps it engaging, and makes sure you're hitting different aspects of speaking, your fluency, pronunciation, intonation, recalling, vocabulary, all of it.
And the payoff. What do the sources say happens if you stick with this kind of consistent solo work?
They promise really tangible results, usually noticeable over weeks and months. You'll start noticing clearer pronunciation. Your responses will become faster, more automatic because you've built those neural pathways through active speaking. And crucially, significantly more confidence when you do speak to others. As they say, it's clear evidence that speaking to yourself really works.
It's really taking that fundamental principle you have to speak to learn to speak and just empowering yourself to actually do it anytime, anywhere.
Precisely. You become your own best, most available practice partner in a way.
So, okay, to wrap up this deep dive then, we've explored this really powerful arsenal of accessible solo methods, pulled straight from the sources, self-talk, shadowing, recording yourself, using these amazing tech tools, and actively imitating media. And they all kind of hammer home the same point. Consistent, active speaking is the most direct route to fluency.
And the liberating takeaway from all this is absolutely clear, I think. You really don't need a conversation partner available 24/7 to make dramatic progress in your spoken English.
Yeah.
These solo techniques, they're convenient, they're effective, and they're totally adaptable to your life, your schedule, your level.
So if the best way to learn to speak English is, well, to speak it, and you now have this whole toolkit of proven ways to speak effectively all by yourself, using even just 10 or 15 minutes for a couple of those mini sessions each day, what level of fluency, what level of confidence could that consistent solo practice unlock for you in the coming weeks and months? Definitely something powerful to think about.